It did pass 100,000 Australian dollars this week, which I thought was more interesting than saying it passed 69,000 US dollars.
It's a bigger number.
Yeah, exactly. It's a cleaner number. But it is now, it's passed its previous all-time high, which was 87,000 Australian dollars, which was set in November of 2021. So it's finally back above 2021 levels. And today it's at about 102,000 Australian dollars. It's up 202% in the past year. So it's had an incredible past year, and it's up 57% year to date, as I just said, which is yeah. So
Aye.
So yeah,
Take me back 12 months, Hamish.
yeah. I mean, if you've held some Bitcoin, you've done extremely well. So it's not too often an asset does 200% in a year. Like one that's as big as Bitcoin is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is pretty remarkable if you just open up. I mean, obviously we know it's a speculative asset, but it is pretty. I mean, how many assets? I'm just having a quick look here, right? How many assets go up like 400%, then crater 40%, then go up another 90%, then crater 71%, and then go up 300%? Like,
yeah.
It's. I mean, you got to if you're invested. I mean. Here's how I'll put it. If I had my entire net worth in Bitcoin, I'd be bloody nervous because it is the most volatile asset that I have ever seen. But I mean, it makes sense why it's volatile. It's because you can't say what it's worth. It's worth what's the next person is willing to pay for it. So if the next person is willing to pay a lot for it, it's worth a lot. If the next person is not willing to pay very much, then it's not worth very much.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what's the market cap of. I'm trying to see what the market cap of all Bitcoin is at the moment.
Gosh,
it would. I think it's like.
It would be a lot. Bitcoin market cap.
Maybe.
Yeah, live market cap. How many? Oh my gosh, how many zeros? Million, billion, 1.3 trillion.
1.3 trillion. Yeah. So for something like that to be going, up 200%, down 70% is crazy. Yeah, like imagine if Apple was, doing that, or Google stock or something was acting like that. That would just be insane.
Yeah, no, it would be insane. You're right. That would be absolutely bonkers. Nobody would stand for that. That's crazy. Yeah, Bitcoin, it's normal. It's fine. No worries.
Yeah, but there's actually a fairly simple there's a fairly simple microeconomic explanation for why it's like this, and it's really interesting. If for people maybe who haven't, looked too much into Bitcoin and how it works and how coins are mined and created. So really it's a very fascinating supply and demand case study. If you're interested in that kind of thing, there's some things happening on the demand side and there's some things happening on the supply side, and the combination of those gives you what we've seen, these kind of massive volatile swings and certainly the increase, 200% increase over the last year. So let's start with the demand side. So demand, of course, for Bitcoin it has been a massive driver of why it's been increasing so much. Demand has been absolutely surging, particularly since around January when we got the launch of a number of US Bitcoin ETFs. So I can't exactly... Can you remember exactly when they were launched? I believe it was either
wasn't that long ago.
mid-February or mid-January maybe.
Yeah, it was around about that time. It wasn't very long ago.
Yeah, so the last couple of months in particular has basically opened the floodgates for people being able to very easily access Bitcoin and be able to kind of invest in Bitcoin. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF has now reached $10 billion in assets as of this week, which is an astounding figure. It's actually the fastest ETF to ever reach $10 billion. So it's the fastest for any ETF ever. And the 10 Bitcoin ETFs that currently exist in the US have a combined value of $50 billion. Which is an astounding amount of money, right? Because what did you just say the value of all Bitcoin was? It was like $1.2 trillion.
1.3, yeah.
Yeah, so for ETFs, just in the space of a few weeks to already be worth $50 billion just shows you how much money is flowing into the space. Money flowing into these ETFs, and then companies that own the ETFs or manage the ETFs like BlackRock, then of course go and buy the actual asset, which drives the price up. Weekly inflows this week actually exceeded $2 billion. So the rate of money flowing into these ETFs is incredible. And it shows, there's a lot of people piling in who want a piece of the action. A lot of people who maybe some of them are speculating, maybe some of them believe in Bitcoin, but didn't, want to buy it directly before. But certainly demand has been a big part of this story.
Yeah, crazy. There's some wild stats. Yeah, you're right, because I just looked it up. The SEC approved the 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs. I'm looking at a Forbes article dated 17th of January. So it's not that long ago for all this to have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
So that's kind of the demand side, and that's really that's the simple side of things. The supply side is also extremely interesting. So unlike other commodities, supply for Bitcoin is completely fixed. It's completely fixed. So there's a hard limit of 21 million Bitcoins in total that can possibly exist. Currently, 90% of those, for about 19.6 million, have already been created or mined. And essentially, new coins are created by computers solving complex equations. So people can set up these algorithms, and they can do these increasingly complex computations. And currently, about 900 Bitcoins can be mined per day in total. So there's an absolute max, there is a fixed amount of Bitcoin that can be mined, basically, every single day. And the rate at which Bitcoin can be mined will drop over time, and the last coin will be mined around 2140 is kind of the estimate, the year 2140.
Right.
Which is completely different to a lot of other commodities. So if I just take another commodity like gold, for example, if demand spikes for gold and the price of gold goes up, in the short term, yes, the supply of gold is pretty fixed. If there's just a sudden increase in demand for gold, there isn't going to be a sudden change in supply. It's pretty fixed. The amount that's being mined today is pretty much the amount that's going to be mined tomorrow and the day after that. But over time, over the long run, gold miners will see the higher prices, and they can begin new mining projects. They can try and find they can do more discovery and try and find new mines where they can find more supply. Bitcoin miners can't increase their mining efforts even as the price increases. It's completely fixed. And the rate of mining actually halves every few years. They call it the halving, and there's actually one coming up.
Right.
So it's a really fascinating situation where you have it's got some commodity-like properties, but in other ways it's a very, very unique asset. Of the 19.6 million Bitcoin that, and this is kind of the other fascinating part of it, of the 19.6 million Bitcoin that currently exist, most of it hasn't moved in a very long time. In fact, 80% of the coins haven't been traded in over 6 months. So the vast majority of the coins out there are just not moving. They're just in storage, not being touched.
Interesting.
And there's probably a couple of things, playing a role in this. Some of it, of course, would just be long-term holders, whales in the market that just have a huge amount of Bitcoin and are just happily sitting on it. But there's also a lot of people who have just lost their passwords to their wallets, and the coins are just permanently lost, which is a really interesting aspect of Bitcoin, because people can have these kind of offline wallets where they just have a series of words, which is the key. And if you lose that, it's just, you're done. Like you can't get it back. You can't go to your bank and say, oh, I forgot my password, or, I forgot my PIN, but here's my identification. I own this wallet, or I own this bank account. If you lose your wallet, you lose the coins, and no one can ever trade them. They're basically frozen forever.
Gone.
And it's actually estimated about 20% of all Bitcoin is permanently lost to people who've lost their wallets. Which, again, is a crazy stat. So not only is the market fixed, you've also got a large part, not only is the supply fixed, you've also got this huge portion of the market of the coins that will never be traded again.
Wow.
So you've actually got kind of downward pressure also on supply over time as people inevitably lose their wallets.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because you're right. Over time, it's not going to trend. More people are going to remember their passwords.
Yeah, exactly. You're not suddenly going to find
the other way.
Yeah, and you know, we've heard some crazy stories, right, of people who had 100,000 Bitcoin on a hard drive from 2013, and they've lost it, and they've been digging through the landfill to try and find it. And a lot of Bitcoin is just in that state. And, we're not going to get that anymore. There's not going to be a new person who buys 100,000 Bitcoin and then loses it. That's something that is really only possible when it was like $1 a Bitcoin, right? Or something like that, or 1 cent a Bitcoin. But it is an interesting aspect to it, right? Is that
definitely
you can just lose it, and it's permanent. There's nothing you can do about it.
Crazy.
So
I didn't really think about that, but that is absolutely wild.
Yeah. So it's a fascinating kind of asset to watch because at the moment you've got this enormous demand, and I kind of wrote down here where is it going in the future? Obviously, absolutely nobody I think has any idea where this is going to go in the future. It's just fascinating to watch it, either if you're a participant or whether you're just watching from the sideline. But it's going to be the supply is fixed, so it's really a question of what's demand going to do, right? Is the demand that we're seeing right now a reflection of increasing widespread adoption, and it's going to be this store of value? It's going to become the new gold. It's going to be used in transactions, yada yada yada. Is this widespread adoption, or is it largely a speculative frenzy, right? Is it largely people just trying to make money on it going up? That's really the question when it comes to what's Bitcoin going to do. And the ETFs now existing that were created a few weeks ago is a very interesting spanner that's thrown into it, because for now it means that it's very easy for people to acquire more Bitcoin, driving the price up. It also probably means that it's very easy for people to pull out of the market. We may end up seeing, maybe I was going to say more volatility in Bitcoin, but I don't think you can even use that term because, the last time it dropped 70%. So
more volatility, continued volatility.
Yeah.
That is, that's the thing. Like, so many people you see online comment that they know where Bitcoin is going. And I'm saying this on both sides. The bulls say, oh, I know that it's going up. And then the bears say, it's worthless. I know that it's going down. But the reality is that nobody knows. You cannot, even with a stock, you can't predict what's going to happen in the short term. But over the long term, you definitely can, because you know that things are going to more or less move with the movement of the business over time. But with Bitcoin, you just got no idea. It's literally what the next schmuck is willing to pay for it. And if they're willing to pay more, good investment. Well done. You've sold it for a higher price. If they're not willing to pay more, too bad, so sad. That's the reality of it. That's just what it is. Where it will go in the future, it's a good question, but no one knows the answer.
Yeah, but it is fascinating to watch. It's
fascinating for me to see that people not keeping their biases in check. Like, they're so convinced. They're so convinced they know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
you don't.
Yeah,
you don't.
I have no idea. Yeah,
you have no clue. Yeah, it's wild. It's certainly an interesting example in human psychology. The old Bitcoin, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a very good point.